Well, King Charles has got some problems to deal with right about now. For example, what in the world is a spoon supposed to do? Over the weekend, Buckingham Palace took a little break from rounds of hot cross buns with some serious lashings of Duchy of Cornwall butter to reveal a lot of details about His Majesty's upcoming coronation, including what priceless jewelry and regal tchotchkes are going to feature. And on this list is a spoon from medieval times. The problem is, though, historians don't have the first clue what part this bit of gold cutlery, which dates all the way back to at least 1349, is supposed to play. But what should be causing the king even more headaches than the Great Spoon mystery is his son. There are signs suggesting that the king and his son are experiencing worsening problems. And no, I'm not even talking about Harry, the world's most famous whiner. I'm talking about the other one. Up to this point, Charles and William have mostly been reported to be very much in sync when it came to the handling of the various PR crises and publicity squalls that have hit the palace recently. By all accounts, they got along great. They agreed on basically everything. They were men who just wanted to focus on doing their best to preserve the monarchy and then still make it home in time for afternoon tea. Actually, there have even been reports suggesting that the two have joined forces to try to get a handle on the Great Sussex Storm, and it brought them closer together. It is a nice silver lining to that whole mess. But apparently that is not true anymore. Things have taken a turn for the worse between Charles and William. So let's take a little look at the evidence. The first bit of evidence came on Sunday UK time when the royal family descended on Windsor to do what they really do best. They go to stuff. This go around, it was the Easter service at St. George's Chapel, and that was Charles's first outing like this as king and as the head of the Church of England. And it should have just been a normal Windsor engagement with big smiles and hats and Prince Louis looking like he was planning some kind of mutiny, if not for the fact that right in the middle of the group was Prince Andrew. It's important that we understand one of the recurring challenges is finding new and varied ways to describe how awful the Duke of York really is. And I'm not alone in my feelings here. 84% of Brits, as of the most recent polling, have an unfavorable view of the world's most famous buddy of a pedophile. But in spite of how people feel about him in the UK, there was Andrew chatting with Princess Anne. The two were conspicuously behind Charles and Camilla. So alright, sure, it's obvious the king gave in to the Duke of York being a part of things, but it was obvious that William didn't want a thing to do with his uncle. Instead of William, his wife Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and their three children taking their places towards the front of the pack of HRHs and Windsor cousins, they decided to remain at the very back of the group. Basically, it looked like they wanted to stay as far away from Andrew as possible. We saw shots of Charles with Andrew right there behind him flashed around the internet, but William and Catherine and their little family didn't end up in a single frame with the disgraced dud of a duke. Obviously, father and son do not agree on how they should handle the ongoing mess that is the unemployed former trade ambassador, which does not look very good for the future. We don't really need to call in a psychic to know that Andrew's attempts to stage comebacks with these recurring rating regularity are proof that there is nothing more durable in the world than a man's ego. So, might Charles and William end up on a collision course over disgraced Uncle Andrew? And then the next bit of proof, which came through the Daily Mail, which ran a series of excerpts from veteran royal correspondent Robert Jobson's new book about Charles. So one of the corkers is, the idea of stripping Harry of his Duke of Sussex title has been discussed at the highest level. The king is said not to be in favor, but other senior royals are less indulgent. Now, of course, Jobson doesn't tell us outright who this mysterious senior royal might be, but considering that the pool of candidates is pretty small here, it's hardly a stretch to consider that one might be William. And again, we've got an ongoing disagreement that the King and the Prince of Wales may have. Ever since Harry released his tell-all memoir Spare back in January, friends of William have been regularly showing up to express the 40-year-old father of three's anger at his brother. In early January, there was a friend of William's who told the Daily Beast Tom Sykes, exaggerate the extent of William's contempt for Harry and Meghan now. And that very same month, there was a friend of the former rescue pilot who spoke with the Sunday Times' Roy Anika, saying that Spare had left his only sibling burning. And just last week, a friend of William's told the Beast Hikes of the brothers, relations have never been this bad. So again, if Charles is still focused on being a father, with reports repeatedly stressing that no matter what, His Majesty is always going to love his son Harry, while William just seems to be very angry, are there some London fireworks coming our way? And last but not least is our last little bit of proof, the confusing issue of Camilla's rod. When palace aides were getting the hot cross buns off the press releases about the various fancy coronation paraphernalia that's supposed to come out of storage, they also revealed that Her Majesty has decided to use a 17th century scepter with a beautiful dove stuck on the top. But there is a problem with this piece. It is made of ivory. For years now, one of William's most important causes has been the end of the wildlife trade, and in 2014 it was reported that he had told Dr. Jane Goodall that he would like to see all the ivory owned by Buckingham Palace destroyed. Now, that comment was never officially confirmed, but it does sound like something he would say. He feels so strong on the issue that in 2015, William raised the issue directly with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and he recorded a speech for Chinese state television about the ivory trade, which was a very impressive bit of diplomatic tightrope walking. In 2018, Jobson revealed that Charles and William had clashed over his views on what to do with 1,200 ivory items in the royal collection, and this collection includes items like Henry VIII's quill. So, Camilla's decision to bring the ivory out for the coronation does not seem likely to go down well with William, and that basically gives Charles and William yet another thing to disagree on. And another important thing to consider in all of this is both men reportedly have quite the temper. Both Charles and William, and especially William, have been reported to have short fuses, making this situation even more dire. And all of this is also happening against the backdrop of their changed roles. For more than 50 years, Charles was very outspoken. He was basically a lobbyist, and he was free to write his famous Black Spider memos and to bother the great and good about everything from his intense hatred of modern architecture to the fate of the Patagonian toothfish. But now he's king, so he doesn't really have that freedom anymore. In fact, His Majesty has already assured people that now he's going to walk the line, and he's not going to spend his time trying to impress upon government ministers his pet views about, I don't know, sound baths for troubled teens, or why new tube stations should incorporate feng shui. But that latitude to be something of an activist HRH is a real privilege that William can and will continue to enjoy. He can also enjoy the added boost of the prominence of his Wales title and the global platform of his Earthshot prize. We can only hope that Charles is going to look with pride on William's well-received climate push and not feel a kind of resentment that, by contrast, his decades of environmentalism meant that for such a long time he was viewed as a crazy person. And there is an underlying problem in all of this. That leaves Camilla's ornamental ivory stick out of things. The Andrew and Harry messes are going absolutely nowhere, meaning that two of the biggest difficulties the royal family is going to have to try and figure out going forward are the very issues that it seems like Charles and William disagree on. And this is risky stuff at a time when the royal family cannot afford any more family bitterness or new headlines talking about a rift. It would be a massive distraction. And this is at a time when they are busily trying to drive home a message of unity and togetherness with no subtlety whatsoever. The only way the institution of the monarchy can survive what is probably going to be some bumpy years to come is if William and Charles can put on a real united front, if they can figure out a way to solve their differences. Abraham Lincoln once said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And what about a palace divided? Well, it's probably just going to completely crumble.